We are talking about one of the constitutional amendments to be decided by voters November 7th, Amendment C, defining marriage as between only a man and a woman. Traditionally, South Dakota voters tend not to vote to change Constitution, especially when the issue is not crystal clear, such as this one seems to be. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first, I do happen to think this amendment is crystal clear. It's about protecting marriage, but what I would say is true. People are slow to amend the Constitution, and it is a drastic measure, and I think drastic times require drastic measures. We have seen what's going on in the rest of the country where gay activists are taking the Boy Scouts to court. They're going to court demanding marriage rights and civil unions and such things, and they're getting their way in some states. We know their intention is to marry people of the same sex. We know that. That requires a drastic response by amending our Constitution so that some judge, some activist judge in the near future here won't just take our state law and just toss it overboard and redefine what marriage means.
Is that a realistic possibility that people will probably vote to leave the Constitution? That would be good for you.
I think people want to leave the Constitution the way it is, especially if it's asking the government, if the question being asked is to radically change it by adding this made-up term quasi-marital. It does no legal definition. It forces judges to decide these benefits that are associated with marriage and then deny them to all non-married people. I want to point to two quick examples of how this has been detrimental in other states. Places like Ohio ended up taking away domestic violence protection from non-married women. The judges said that they couldn't treat an unmarried couple the same way as they treat a married couple, and so they stripped them of these domestic violence protections, and that's going through the court now, but it leaves a lot of women who are victims of domestic violence in uncertain waters in Ohio. And in Michigan, people before the amendment were saying it was just about marriage, and then afterwards they're suing to take away health care from families and children. And so, what we're seeing is that when we just talk about marriage, but really pass an amendment like South Dakota's, which has 2 sentences, it opens up this can of worms that people keep coming back to over and over again to push a very narrow agenda. We saw it in Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Louisiana, Utah. It keeps coming back and back.
I just want to save enough time, about a minute and a half, for each of you to kind of close out the discussion here. First of all, I think maybe you can just close by explaining to our viewers and the voters why this is necessary to be legislated in the first place. Robert?
Well, I think first, John is misleading people. This isn't going to harm seniors, and it's not going to take away their Social Security or health care. This has nothing to do with domestic violence laws. The problem in Ohio is not with their marriage amendment, it's with their domestic violence statute. The problem in Michigan is not a problem at all. We're going to do the same thing as Michigan. This applies to the state in all its political subdivisions, where even a university would not be allowed to treat unmarried couples, whether they're heterosexual or homosexual, the same as my marriage with my wife. They're not going to grant the benefits and rights of marriage to people who aren't actually married, whether you're gay or straight, whether you're monogamous or polygamous. This applies across the board and holds marriage in a special place that from the beginning of civilization we have always done.
Robert, vote yes. John, vote no.
We're voting no because, this amendment is at its heart unnecessary. It's so poorly worded that's going to affect many more people than just intentionally hurting gay people, but unintentionally hurting people that we all care about, senior citizens, single women, a whole host of people in South Dakota. Whether we agree that gay people should get married or not really isn't the issue. It's whether we should put a bad law into our Constitution. And I think that as people read the full amendment and do the research for themselves and see that in other states that have passed similar amendments created a lot of unintended consequences, people are willing to vote no and keep things the way they are right now.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Another proposed amendment would hold judicial decision makers accountable by creating a special grand jury to investigate complaints. We'll hear from those for and against that constitutional change next.